Peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to my channel. I am Mama Morbitis. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you all my emergency C-section story, and I'm going to just jump right in. Okay, so for those who don't know, I have a beautiful baby girl. She was born on May 23rd, and she was 38 weeks gestation when she was delivered. The day before her delivery, which was May 22nd, I went in to see my high risk doctor. This is a doctor because I'm high risk for several reasons. I've had miscarriages before. Um, I'm 45 years old, so I am considered advanced maternal age. And then I have had one C-section before. It was 14 years ago with my now 14-year-old son. But I have had a baby after that, my 6-year-old son. So I was still considered viable to do vaginal birth after cesarean. This one would actually be called a vaginal birth after cesarean. So it's a VB, whatever the letters are. VB, I think it's VBA, VBAC. So I go in to see. Oh, so I was seeing my high risk doctor once a week, and I was also seeing my regular OB once a week. So this was a regular scheduled appointment I went in for to see my high risk doctor. During my high risk visits, what they do is just monitor the baby's heart rate, make sure that there's no dips or decelerations in her heart rate, and they also monitor her heart rate. Or they check the amniotic fluid to make sure that my fluid is not low or high, because either one is a sign of different things that could be going on with the baby. And they just kind of monitor my comfort level, um, listen to any complaints that I might have, and just kind of make sure that overall I'm doing well. The reason that you see a high risk doctor along with your regular OB is because in some pregnancies there's a risk of your baby actually dying inside of you. And so this is kind of a effort to make sure that doesn't happen, to try to look for the signs to make sure that that doesn't happen. So just knowing that information, you guys should know that I was already kind of on edge about this pregnancy, very, very nervous, even at the possibility that that might happen. And actually, for those who don't know, I was on bed rest for about 4.5 months at the end of the 4.5 months, the later part of my pregnancy. I was on bed rest for those same reasons that I've had miscarriages before, that I am considered advanced maternal age again, and that I've had a C-section before. So I go into this regular visit, and my appointment was at 11 o'clock. So I go in, see the doctor. Of course, I had been drinking plenty of water that day, because anybody who's had an ultrasound knows that you get better pictures when your bladder is full. So I have been drinking water. As he's doing the ultrasound, the doctor tells me that it looks like my fluid is low. Ding, ding, ding. I'm automatically alarmed. Again, for those of you guys who don't know, I'm a registered nurse. I've worked in pediatrics, and I have worked in the NICU. So I'm very familiar with what these various things kind of mean. So with the fluid being low, you have the possibility of the baby weighing down on the umbilical cord. And when that happens, it cuts off oxygen supply to the baby. Um, that could put your baby at risk for brain damage, also for death. So, no one wants to hear that their fluid is low. The doctor gives me two options. One is to go home, wait 24 hours, drink plenty of fluids in that 24 hours, come back the next day and see if my fluid levels have gone up. The other option is to go ahead and be admitted to the hospital and be induced. Being as though I wanted baby girl to stay in as long as possible, I actually suggested that I wait the 24 hours. And the doctor, I guess he was going to go along with that initially, but he thought about it, and he's like, you know what, I think you should just go be induced. I think that's the best thing. You're 38 weeks along, so baby's lungs are probably super fine. The baby looks like it's a good size. I have no other issues, and we just don't want to risk those bad things happening that could possibly happen. So I agreed with him, went ahead and agreed to go over to the hospital where I was going to deliver. So at this point, it's about noon. I called my husband, who was at work at the time. Of course, he didn't answer. He never answers while he's at work. Um, he works in construction, and obviously, sometimes he just is not able to answer his phone. It's not safe. Generally, though, if I call repeatedly, he answers. Weird enough, he didn't. Neither here nor there. Called him, he didn't answer. Left a couple of messages that he needs to call me back. It's urgent. Called my doula, who was a lot closer. Well, my husband works an hour and a half away from where we live, and the hospital is about a half an hour away from where we live. So it was going to take him at least about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to me. My doula, who lives a lot closer, um, I knew she would. I knew she would get there well before my husband. So gave her a call, and of course she met me over at the hospital. I arrived to the hospital that I was going to deliver at approximately 12:30. And it doesn't. The doctor had already called ahead, so they were expecting me. Didn't take very long to get me checked in and get me into a room and all set up. My doctor comes in. Probably. Oh no, the nurse. Initially, the nurse comes in. She puts me on the monitor, which definitely put me at ease because baby girl looked good on the monitor. Heart rate was fine. She was moving like normal, and I was having just kind of what they call uterine irritability, meaning that I wasn't really having contractions that I could feel, but the monitor was picking up like mini contractions, if you will. So I was in no pain. Everything was beautiful as far as I'm concerned. Doctor comes in, and it is now about, I would say, it took about an hour. I think I was on the monitor for about an hour before she came in. So my OB, my regular OB, comes in to see me, and she looks over, everything that the high risk doctor said. I guess she had actually talked to him, and she agreed that I should go ahead and be induced. Because I've had a C-section before, they weren't going to do the normal induction procedure, which is just put in the cervidil to help the cervix soften and prepare to dilate, and then using pitocin to dilate the cervix. That's the normal procedure. For me, they weren't going to do that because there's a risk of uterine rupture. So they told me that some of the options that they had, and they kind of settled on doing the catheter induction. A catheter induction is where the urinary catheter, it has a balloon on the end, and you can expand it with water. And so they put that into your cervix and expand it, and hopefully it helps your cervix dilate over time. Well, usually it helps your cervix dilate over time. Again, this was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, no later than 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the doctor actually wasn't going to put the catheter in until a little later in the evening. So my doula agreed to just stay with me until my husband arrived, which she did. My husband showed up, and it was about 45 minutes after I talked to the doctor. So that makes it probably about 2:30 or so. Um, the doula gives my husband some instructions. She tells my husband, of course, if anything changes, to call her. But otherwise, she's going to come back in the morning because the doctor says she's going to leave the catheter in overnight, and then they'll call me. Then they'll come in the morning. She'll do whatever else we're going to do in the morning after she sees what the catheter has done. Before my doula leaves, she sets the room up beautifully. She puts these string lights up to kind of set the ambiance of the room, dims the lights, puts the string lights up. She has this diffuser with lemon and lavender, and I'm telling you, it smelled amazing. She put on some relaxing music. She gave me these rice socks. So she just filled. I guess she had previously filled a couple of socks with rice, and explained to my husband how to use those. So he would go and heat them in the microwave. Those things are amazing. Had them on my breast, had them on my cervix, but I'll talk about that later because I didn't really use those until after the delivery. But back to the story. Doula leaves and leaves hubby and I there. So we kind of settle in for the night. I did ask the doctor that if I dilated during the night, because she said that the only way that they would do anything at all and before the morning is if the catheter came out on its own, which at that point, if it did, I would be almost fully dilated. So because they said the staff is low at night, she didn't want to rupture my membranes until the morning when she came in, just so that I wouldn't deliver before she got there. Cool. I did ask that if the catheter came out, if they would go ahead and induce. They didn't anticipate me dilating until the morning, or fully until the morning. So I did ask if it came out on its own, would they go ahead and rupture my membranes? And they never really gave me a solid answer on that. But okay, so we settle in overnight. For anybody who has this procedure, or if this procedure is offered to you, I suggest you take it. I was in absolutely no pain at all. I was the monitor was showing contractions, but I personally wasn't feeling anything at all. Nothing above light cramping. I wouldn't even call it cramping. It was more just kind of like some uncomfortableness. Now, this is baby number 6 for me, so I know what labor is like. And all of my labor contractions hurt. This was completely different. It was an uncomfortable feeling because something's in there and you can feel that something's in there, but it is not painful at all. So, and I was able to walk to the bathroom. They wanted me in the bed for the most part, but I could go back and forth to the bathroom, which for whatever, they had me on IV fluids. So I was going to the bathroom a lot, all night long. 7 o'clock in the morning comes, right? The doctor's supposed to be there at 7. Of course, she doesn't show up. So at 8, the nurse comes in, explains to me that my doctor won't be there until 9. So I send my husband to take our boys to school because obviously we're thinking he's not going to miss anything, right? Wrong. My husband leaves to go take the boys. Doctor comes in about 8:30. She asked me about my pain, asked me about, it being uncomfortable, asked me if the catheter would come out or if it moved. So she checked it. The catheter was still in pretty firmly. She told the nurse they were going to go ahead and remove it, which they did. This is about, again, like 8:45. Now, hubby, because I drove myself to the hospital and he drove from work, both of our vehicles were there. So what we decided to do was that he was going to go take the boys to school. He was going to ride back with my doula, who was also supposed to come about 9 o'clock. And that way, when I was discharged from the hospital, we could just go home together because he didn't plan to leave anymore once he got back from taking the boys to school. So now he's waiting for the doula. Doctor comes in and she checks me. I am now almost 8 centimeters dilated. Guys, I did not have any contractions, any uncomfortableness. It was wonderful, and I'm ecstatic. I'm on cloud 9 because now I know that pretty soon I'm going to be delivering my beautiful baby girl. Doctor says, let me do an ultrasound just to make sure she's still head down. Guys, this baby was head down from probably about, honestly, 20 weeks when they did the anatomy ultrasound. She had not moved this entire pregnancy from that point. Well, guess what? During the night, baby girl turned from being head down to now being transverse. She's not quite straight across. She was more like diagonal. So her head was just down on the left side, like kind of parallel to my left leg. Amazing, right? So now she's talking about C-section. Of course, I don't want a C-section. So she offered me a procedure called an aversion. I was so distraught that baby girl had moved. Now they're talking about C-section, and anybody who's been through a similar situation, when they start talking C-section, things start moving really fast. Initially, I agreed to the C-section because, baby had moved. And she did explain to me that trying to turn baby might cause my uterus to rupture, seeing as though I had a C-section before. So I agreed to the C-section initially, then the doctor left. The nurse came in and tried to comfort me, so I was crying, I was upset, I was emotional. Obviously, I called my husband and told him that he needed to rush back because they were talking about a C-section and they were talking about doing it like ASAP. as the nurse was trying to comfort me, I just really thought about it. Again, I'm a nurse, and I know that after about 2 years, a surgical scar, is considered fully healed. I knew that I also had a baby after my first C-section, and I had no issues. I also knew that baby was almost head down, and it shouldn't take a lot of pressure to turn her back. At that time, we're thinking that the balloon from the catheter kind of pushed her head to make her turn. So we didn't know anything else was going on, but I'll get to that later. I reconsidered. Oh, I had called hubby. I had called. Sorry, my battery was low. I don't know if you guys missed that, but I had called hubby. I had called my doula, told them what was going on, and told them that they needed to hurry. And I told them that I had agreed to the C-section. Well, I called him back, and I'm like, I talked to my husband, and I thought about it, and I'm like, there's a minor risk of something going wrong, but for the most part, I really want to try for vaginal birth. I really don't want to do the C-section, so I want to try what's called an aversion. And aversion is just where two doctors push on your belly and try to get baby to turn back into a head down position. Okay. The nurse gets the doctor for me. I explain to her that now I just really want to try for vaginal birth. I understand the risk associated with the aversion, but I want to go ahead and I want to try for an aversion to get the baby in the position she needs to be in to deliver vaginally. She reluctantly agrees, but she says that if she's going to do it, they're going to do it in the operating room. They're going to give me anesthesia as in preparation for an emergency C-section, so that in the event something goes wrong with the aversion, I'll already be in the operating room and I'll already be medicated, so that they could just go ahead and do the C-section without any delay. Okay, so I agree to that. The anesthesiologist comes and talks to me, and based on my history and based on my pain tolerance, or my perception of my pain tolerance, we decide that we're going to go ahead and get a spinal block. So that's what I got. I got the spinal block. I was moved to the operating room. At this point, I'm still wondering why hubby and the doula are not there. I'm panicked. I kept calling my doula. And it was something about her daughter. She had to get her to school. It was just, I don't know. So I called hubby. I actually told him to just forget waiting for her and drive the car back. But she was there, so they were on their way. They tell me that they'll kind of wait for him if they have to do the C-section, unless it's an emergency, so that's fine. So we get to they wheel me down to the operating room. Just to give you guys kind of my state of mind at this point, I had cried because I got the upsetting news that I was going to have a C-section, or possibly have a C-section. But then I had this calm after I said a prayer that everything was going to be all right. I was going to try for the aversion. So now I'm happy again because I'm going to, possibly deliver vaginally. So when they're wheeling me down to the operating room, I'm already not sedated, I'm sorry, I'm already medicated. I got my spinal block. I'm a goofball, y'all. I couldn't feel my toes, so I kept trying to wiggle my toes. That's is kind of like this weird feeling. My legs were like super heavy. It's just funny. Like, it was just funny. So I'm making jokes with the nurses that are wheeling me down, and they're kind of responding. So we're joking. It's very lighthearted. So we get to the operating room. There's all these people. Now, I was so delighted to see so many sisters that look like me in this hospital in suburban Virginia. Like, I can't explain to you guys how that made me feel. I've never seen such a thing before. So now I really feel good. They're talking, my OB is talking to this other doctor who she had already explained to me was this great doctor. She was like in charge of everything, and she had locks. I remember looking at her locks as they were cleaning my belly up and doing other stuff to me. She tells her what they're going to do, kind of tells her some of my history, tells her what they're going to do and what she wants her to do. So they bring an ultrasound machine in and they look at baby girl. They see that she's only slightly out of position. So they're like, okay, well, yeah, this should be easy. My doctor pushes, she tells me, get ready. They check that I'm numb, and she tells me what she's going to do. So she's on this side, pushing baby girl this way. The other doctor's on this side, pushing her bottom up. Literally like 20 seconds after they started, she's like, wow, feels like, she's in position. So they do the ultrasound. Sure enough, baby girl is head down. So my OB, excuse me, does a vaginal exam. She's gonna break my water at this point because she says, once the water breaks, hopefully the head will engage and baby girl will stay head down. She goes to do the vaginal exam. She can't feel the baby's head with her hand. So they do an ultrasound. Sure enough, baby girl had turned back again vertically. So now they're laughing because they're like, this little girl just won't cooperate. She just does not want today to be her birthday. Incidentally, May 23rd is my oldest daughter's birthday as well. So I'm like, oh my goodness. Again, I'm thinking everything's okay. So I'm joking too. And I'm like, yeah, she knows better. My oldest daughter's going to beat her if she's born today. Or I said something like that. And, we're laughing. So now the plan is my doctor is going to have the other doctor push the head back in place, hold her there while my doctor ruptures my membranes. Again, hoping that baby girl's head will, the rupturing, breaking my water will keep baby girl's head in place, make her head engage, and so she won't move anymore, and I can have a vaginal delivery. So this is what they do. The other doctor pushes baby girl in place. They feel that she's in place. They look on her ultrasound. They see that she's in place. Doctor's still holding baby girl while the OB goes to rupture my membranes. She still can't feel the head, and they're like, that is so strange. So my doctor orders somebody else that was in the room to to do the ultrasound to see where she is. As they're doing this, my OB said she's looking at the ultrasound. She's saying, I can see my fingers. So apparently she can see her fingers on the ultrasound machine, but baby girl's head is still floating way up. This point, I don't know it at this point, but my OB thinks that my uterus ruptured. She doesn't say that out loud, and I don't know that until later. But just to keep the story going, this is what she thinks. So she's like, I think we should just do a C-section. And I guess they make some sign to each other because I don't hear them say anything, but the doctor responds as if she said something. So she was like, okay, yeah. She gets the Doppler. Guys, she says she's down. I get chills. I'm so sorry. From working in the NICU, usually saying that someone is down means that they don't have a heart rate. My heart dropped because at this point I'm thinking my daughter doesn't have a heart rate, a heartbeat. So now everything's moving fast. I hear my doctor say to call for the NICU team. Again, I know that means that they think the baby's in real trouble. So everybody's just moving. All I remember thinking was, you got to get her out. You got to get her out. It seems like it took forever. I hear them as they're going through the layers again. I don't feel anything, and the blue curtain is up, so I can't see anything. I'm just remembering exactly how I was feeling. I'm sorry. It seemed like an eternity that from the time they said that they're gonna do the C-section until I heard somebody, and I'm assuming it was my OB, say, I'm in. They're pulling, guys. They're pushing. This is nothing like my first C-section. Even though I was numb from probably about my nipples down to my toes, it hurt. I felt hurt. I'm saying ow, ow, it hurt, but I'm not. I don't care about that. I just want her out. They kept saying, "I'm sorry, we're sorry." So I'm like, I don't care. Just get her out. Just get her out, because at this point, I know the countdown has started. You only have 4 minutes without oxygen before you suffer brain damage. Again, keeping in mind that I thought that my daughter didn't have a heart rate. She doesn't have a heart rate. That means she's not getting any oxygen. So I know you only have 4 minutes until brain damage starts. So I'm thinking about cerebral palsy. I'm thinking about her not making it, all kinds of things. And I'm thinking it's my fault. I should have just got the C-section. I shouldn't even try for this aversion. So I just want her out and safe. But this pain is undescribable. They couldn't get her out. Somebody said, and again, I'm assuming it's my doctor because I honestly don't know. I just remember hearing people talking. I don't even recall voices, but I'm assuming it was my doctor. Someone said she's stuck. The other doctor gets on top of the table, guys. She's literally on the table, kind of with her butt to the blue curtain. Again, I can't see her whole body. I can only see her head. So she's facing away from me, and she's pushing down on my belly, trying to get this baby out. Like she's really, really pushing, and I feel it on my ribs, and I feel it on my abdomen. The pushing I could hardly feel, but the tugging I could definitely feel. So they're pushing and pushing, and again, I'm ohing and eyeing because it definitely hurts, but I don't care about any of that. I just want my baby out. I just needed to see her. Finally, after pushing for a little bit, they got her out. When I saw her going past me to the NICU table, um, I hear baby girl screaming. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. This is baby girl. Say hi to our friends. Say hi. Islam. Okay. So, whew. So, I see them carry baby girl past me, and she amazingly didn't look blue to me, which is the color babies are if they don't have oxygen for a while. She didn't look blue, but again, I'm still thinking that with her saying baby is down. With them saying baby is down, I'm thinking that she didn't have a heartbeat at all. Put her over on the table, and I'm trying to look. I see the NICU doctors working on her, and I see I'm just watching to see what exactly they do because I am super afraid at this point. But I see her moving, so again, I'm like, well, maybe she started back breathing. Once she came out, I didn't know. But I'm waiting, and I guess the neonatologist could kind of feel my anxiety. So he turned and looked at me, and he was like, "She's doing great." I actually heard him say, as they were working on her, well, first, let me say this. They were holding the oxygen near her face. That let me know that she was breathing on her own because if she wasn't breathing, they would be doing either the ambu bag or they would be putting a tube in so that she could breathe. So them holding the oxygen there, I knew she was breathing on her own. He turns to me. He says, "Oh, Mom, she's okay." But while they were working on her, I heard him say, "Wow, she's amazing." So that let me know, okay, she's good. At that point, my husband came in. He says that he actually saw my uterus outside of my body. I still felt them working on me, and guys, it was still hurting. And the anesthesiologist is behind me, and he's steady saying, "We can give you something for that. We can put you to sleep. We can put you to sleep." But no way was I getting put to sleep until I knew that my baby was okay. So, hubby says, "Do you want him to give you something?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Go look at our daughter. Go make sure she's okay." And again, the nurse that was with me in the beginning told me that she was fine. She came over to me. She was like, "She is fine. She is doing really good, Mom. You're gonna be okay." I just needed to see for myself. So I waited and I waited, and guys, I was in excruciating pain. Let me tell you, I was in excruciating pain. But I waited until I saw them wrapping her up. They brought her over and let me see her face, and told me that she was going to be okay. I said, does she have to go to the NICU? They said, no, she looks good. She's fine. She's going to go to the room with you and Dad. So then I told the anesthesiologist, yes, please give me something, and he put me right out. Hubby says it was 15 minutes later that I came. He said they went to the room right away. He and baby girl went to the room right away. And it was about 15 minutes later that I came. But I don't remember how long it was because I was completely out. The next thing I remember, I was waking up in the room with my doula, my husband, and baby girl. And I just wanted to see her. So hubby got her out and he let me hold her. I later found my doctor came to the room later, probably about an hour later, and she told me that there was some kind of constriction in my uterus that she couldn't come down from, and that's why her head was still floating so far above. And I was crying because I told her that when I heard them say she's down, I thought that baby girl didn't have a heartbeat. She was like, "Oh no, 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 no." Her heart rate was just going down. She was like, so we wanted to hurry up and get her out of there because I didn't know what was going on. That's when she told me that she thought that my uterus had ruptured, but it had not ruptured. And that's why they actually had my uterus outside of my body for the most part. It was still attached to me, but it was outside of my body because they were looking for where it might have ruptured, at the old scar and that. But she told me she fixed it and it wouldn't interfere with any future pregnancies, although this is the last. But she told me that it wouldn't interfere with any future pregnancies and that they fixed what the problem was. She said that it usually is caused by too much Pitocin, but I hadn't gotten any Pitocin, so she didn't understand why. I didn't understand why. I was just happy that my daughter was healthy, and she is healthy. She was born 6 pounds and 2 ounces. She never had to go to the NICU. We stayed in the hospital 4 days, and we were able to come home. So yeah, um, that's my emergency C-section story. If you guys would like to share your stories with me, please do so in the comments. I would look forward to hearing from you guys. I do want to say that the idea for this video was inspired by one of my subscribers who also has a YouTube channel as well. Her name is Gray Square, and I hope you see this, Gray Square, because I went to your page when you commented on my video, and I saw your emergency C-section story, and I just wanted to share with you so many similarities uh, for us that I noticed. Number one, that you had to be in the hospital for 3 days on bed rest, or I was at home, but for 4.5 months, almost 5 months on bed rest. You had to have an emergency C-section, and I ended up having to have an emergency C-section as well. Ultimately, um, I noticed that your daughter is Olivia Rose. Well, my daughter is Empress Jade Kashana Rose. So I thought that was cool. Your daughter was born May 24th. My baby girl was born May 23rd. So, yeah, and hearing your story inspired me to tell my own story. I'm so glad that your daughter is doing well. I hope she does. I hope she graduates from the NICU even sooner than you guys expected. And I look forward to doing many more videos. Thank you for your comment. You really inspired me. So thank you for that. And I did subscribe to your channel as well. So that's my birth story, guys. If you've hung out this long, thank you. I know this video was pretty long, but this video is actually the first one that is near and dear to me. This is, I'm really sharing something personal with you guys. Haven't really talked about my experience to anybody else outside of family. So now I consider you guys all family. Thank you for watching. Peace and love, family.